Hey, everybody, welcome to a beautiful day in Miami, Florida. I am Suzette Speaks. I'm here to talk to you about some news that has been happening around the United States. Unfortunately, this will not be an upbeat show. I'm going to warn you that we're going to talk about some tragedies that have been happening and asking the question as to why you think more and more accidental shootings have been happening in our country. We first heard about the young man, Ralph Yarl, out of Kansas City, Missouri, who unfortunately, after going to the wrong doorway, the wrong house, in an attempt to pick up his two brothers after his mother asked him to go get them, he unfortunately came upon a man named Andrew Lester. They didn't know each other. They had no words exchanged. They had no contact except him ringing the doorbell. Well, from that exchange, we're going to learn about why Mr. Lester felt that he had the right to shoot his weapon through a glass door, striking the young man in the head and eventually landing him in the hospital. We're also going to talk about a case that happened out in New York, upstate New York. A young lady who, along with her friends, turned into the wrong driveway. And as a result of this wrong turn, a man thought he, as he says, was in danger of his life and shot her, and unfortunately, she lost her life, and he's been charged with second-degree murder. We then move to another case of some Texas cheerleaders who were in Elgin, Texas, in a grocery store parking lot, and unfortunately opened the door of a car that they thought was their own car. There was a man sitting in the passenger seat of that car who then, after they apologized, closed the doors, walked away, chased them, and shot two of them. And finally, we're going to cover a story today of a 6-year-old girl out of North Carolina, Little Miss Kinsley, who, after her ball rolled into the yard of her neighbor went ballistic, quite literally shooting at her and her father. What's going on here in the United States, guys? This is going to be a serious show. I apologize again for the heaviness of the topic. Usually I like to keep it light and easy on a Saturday, but we got work to do because the system of justice here in the United States affects many of us who not only live in the United States, but around the world. If you visit us here, there is a trend that we're seeing, and especially over the last 2 weeks, we have seen an intense amount of unfortunate, some would say accidental, unprovoked is another word I've heard a lot, of these shootings of average, everyday young people. So we're going to talk about why you think this is happening. What do you think can be done about it? Again, this is an American tragedy. If you, like me, believe that unfortunately mistakes do happen where young people might go to the wrong house, might go to the wrong door, and they may be faced with a person who they don't know. But is it enough to say that you are in danger of your life, so much so that you pull the trigger after a doorbell ring? Well, we're going to discuss these cases, how there are similarities between them. What are the differences? We are going to start with Ralph Yarl's case. Again, there seems to be a racial component there. We have a lot to talk about, but I want to welcome you. This is Suzette Speaks on the Suzette Speaks show. I am coming to you live and direct from Miami, Florida. Stand up 305. Drop a note in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're watching Team Replay, hit the like button. We have, again, this is a part of the channel, a discussion that we have today that goes to my interests, which is law as an attorney, justice, and politics. And sometimes, you got to go deep to kind of get below the surface. We're going to discuss these different cases. I want to welcome our co-sponsors today. Each and every Saturday, I'm co-sponsors by the Jamaicans.com Facebook page. Big up everybody watching. If you don't know, I was born in Jamaica, raised here in the United States. Call myself the best of both worlds. An American of Jamaican descent, I guess some people would say, but I'm grateful to have that audience on the Facebook side. And again, if you're watching on the YouTube side, you know what to do. Show some love. Let me know where you're watching from. And again, these cases can be tough to discuss, y'all, but I'm going to do my best to be as sensitive as possible. And I want to hear your opinion. I want to know what you think is driving the trend that we're seeing. Ralph Yarl, as I said, 16 years old. Hit the like button as you come in, please. As we discuss this topic today, I want to prepare you. Again, we're going to talk about the legal side of it. We're going to talk about the practical side of it. But this young man here, 16 years old, Kansas City, Missouri, is the first case I want to kind of delve into. You guys can support the stream. The super chats are open. You can also support me if you like this type of content. My Cash App is available, $ Suzette Speaks. Again, thanks to everybody who always is here, lending me your voices. That's the most important thing. The discussion doesn't take place unless I have your feedback. Those are who are subscribed. Thank you. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. There are people who I know watch me religiously, and I'm grateful for all of you just being here to support me every Saturday. I appreciate you. Next Saturday, just giving you a heads up, I will be in Orlando for a Democratic Women's Conference. So I think I'm going to do Patreon from there. But if I do come live, it will be out of my normal area. So if I have too many technical difficulties, y'all, you'll see me the following week. But I want to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Again, the topic for today is American tragedy. What's going on, guys? We've had back-to-back shootings of young people who, it seems to me, have made very innocent errors, things that would normally happen to any of us. As I was saying, Ralph Yarl rang the wrong doorbell. And we're going to get into the details of the case and why his accused shooter, Mr. Andrew Lester, now charged with 2 counts, assault, and we're going to get into the charges, but why he thought he was justified. This whole thing called Stand Your Ground, a concept called the Castle Doctrine. I'm going to discuss it a little bit here. What are the elements that you need to prove up for the Castle Doctrine if you're into, again, what's going on here in the U.S.? This is a show for you. I want to welcome you again, Jamaicas.com. Big up yourselves for sponsoring me today. Everybody watching and the simulcast over there on Facebook, say hello. Let me say a quick hello as we get into the cases. Ralph Yarl will be discussed today. Again, Kaylin Gillis, 20 years old, shot in upstate New York, which is rural New York, driving. And I found it interesting reading on her, about her case, that there was actually a group of them, says the defendant in that case, the person who shot her, killed her, that there was a group circling his house. Apparently there was more than one vehicle, that one was a motorcycle and maybe 2 additional cars and her car, caravanning, looking for a party in upstate New York, turning into the wrong house. And the gentleman who has now been charged with second-degree murder is now stating that he felt his life was in danger. This one was really sad, y'all. She was a passenger driving with her boyfriend. And again, do we have common sense laws that protect innocence like Miss Kaylin Gillis? Should you, in fact, lose your life if you're turning into the wrong driveway? What have we gotten to in the United States where we think that is appropriate behavior and that we need legal remedies? Good evening from Louisiana. Hey, Claire, good to have you. What's up, Doug? Greetings. You know what? Big up my brother Harrison Family Values. I've been watching a lot of your shows. I may not leave a comment because I'm Team Replay, but you've been doing some great work over there. Big up my brother Harrison Family Values, who's no stranger over here, saying New York tri-state area in the building, watching from Cincinnati. Big up Cincinnati. I've been there once. I went as a speaker at a women's conference at a beautiful, it was like a downtown library I spoke at on the top floor. It was beautiful. Big up Cincinnati, great city. Thank you for being here watching, Sandra. Big up Canada. Oh, Canada is in the building. Esther checking in. Thank you, Esther, for watching today. Again, heavier show than normal, guys, but I think it's important that we talk about it because it's a trend now. When you see 4, and I could have gone 5, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to go into what even happened to the young people in Alabama at a Sweet 16. Those deaths, those passings, I thought were just so tragic. And again, that may have been targeted. These seem to be random. So I didn't tie that one in, but we have several. I think we're over 150 mass shootings in the United States as I'm going live today. It's kind of crazy. Tanya, it's the chemicals in the food, she says. Thank you for sharing your opinion. People are out of their minds. A lack of patience, the trigger happiness. This young lady is who I'm talking about. She, Miss Washington, Peyton Washington, was one of 2 cheerleaders who were shot for opening the wrong car. Now, according to the young ladies, they were under the impression, they thought coming out of the grocery store, they were going to their car. They open the door, they realize it's not their car. They close the door. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. And I'll show you the young man, 25 years old, y'all, who's accused of shooting them for making that mistake, putting one of them, Peyton, in the ICU. It's kind of scary. So there are people who are worried about why this is happening seemingly all over our country, from upstate New York to Kansas City, Missouri, to Texas. We've seen a trend, guys, and this one is the most disturbing of the stories that I will cover today. Kingsley, Little Miss Kingsley. I've omitted her last name, 6 years old. If you watch this video of Kingsley talking about why did you shoot me and my daddy, it is the most, oh my goodness, heart-wrenching of kind of videos that are out there right now. It's shocking. According to police reports, she and her friends were playing outside, you guys. And while they were playing basketball, her ball goes into the neighbor's yard. Well, according to a witness accounts, the neighbors know like short-tempered, hot-head. He comes out shooting for the children playing outside and their ball rolling in his yard. It is the most kind of heinous and frightening thing. He actually was apprehended, y'all, just recently in Florida. You know, there's always a Florida tie. Miami stand up. But 6-year-old Kingsley and her father were shot in North Carolina. And I'm asking you, what is going on? This is an American tragedy. We're going to talk a little bit more about these stories, what happened, why it happened, and is there anything that can be done, should be done, or in your opinion will be done? Do our lawmakers, do our policymakers have the appetite to actually do anything? Or are we just going to keep reporting on mass shooting after mass shooting, where little girls with basketballs running into other people's yards are asking on national television, well, I don't know why they shot me and my daddy. It's really frightening, you guys. I want to ask you, I'm going to drop the link about what you're feeling. Check in with me, please, in the chat. Welcome. If you're watching live, team replay, hit the like button. Suzette Speaks, a little bit, like I said, on the heavy side today, talking about the American tragedy. It just kind of dawned on me. This is a back-to-back, less than 2 weeks straight. We've been having a lot of these. And I wanted to take some time out to kind of discuss why you think we are having more and more senseless shootings. Again, random young people do not know the shooter. This is different. This is not targeted and personal, vendetta and get back at you because you did this. And that's how you see it often when it comes to young people. You did this, you talked to my girl, all of that. No, these are random coincidences, right? Happenstance. Circumstances that would normally justifiably have a reasonable response. If a child's ball rolls into your yard, what do you do? If somebody rings your doorbell, yes, it can be 10 o'clock at night. Do you grab your gun and cock it through the glass door? We're going to get into the details, but I want to know what you think, guys, and support the stream if you would. I'm here because I love doing deep dive discussions, and I would talk about this just because, right? These things affect me in a very personal way. When I look around where I live in Miami, we are not immune to the scourge of gun violence. We don't often see national news cover when young men are shot and killed here. But these made national headlines. Why? They stood out because they were so unique in a way. Because these were victims who did not know their perpetrators, had no contact with their perpetrators. And it seemed like on a very, simple set of circumstances that never should have warranted lethal force, they were met with lethal force. I want to know why you think that is. I want to get into some of the details of each and every case. I want to welcome you. Thank you again for watching. Hit the like button. Let me say hi to a few more people. Hey, I see you, TTOO. Welcome. Glad you're here. Happy Saturday to you. Yes, Orlando's your part of your stomping ground. Yes, I'm going to take a little trip up the road and go check out some ladies who are working in politics, exchange of ideas is really important right about now, especially in Florida with everything we have going on. You guys know about our governor. You know what we got going on. Yeah. So I'm like, I can't sit on the sidelines. I got to see what I can do to help in the fight for equality for all and protection, I guess, of just basic rights like learning about your history in school, those kind of basic rights, those type of things. Yeah, I know. All right, won't digress. Hey, Keisha, nice to have you. Quincy, what up, Quincy? Nice to see you. Says everyone's patience is a little too short and their wrath too swift. I think that is something that a lot of people would agree with as we get into the Ralph Yarl case, because there are so many parts of these stories that just doesn't make sense. If you were a reasonable person, again, using the reasonable person standard, would a reasonable person in your situation have reacted the same way as you? And for all of them, the answer is no, right? Did you have a reasonable fear for your life? Well, we're going to see from the defendant's side what they thought. And, they're arguing that they were, in a couple of the cases, in fear of their life. In the Ralph Yarl case and the Kaylin Gillis case, they said they were in fear of their lives. That's why they shot them. We're going to dig a little deeper into the cases today. Watching from Canada, welcome. Appreciate you, sis. TTOO says, no stand your ground laws with non-life minorities in Baltimore, Detroit, Philly. Okay, exactly. So stand your ground laws, we're going to talk about those. I had a great discussion over on the Roland Martin YouTube channel. I'm over there every Wednesday, y'all. I'll post it on my YouTube page, on my community tab, where I discuss the stand your ground premise that I think, especially in the Ralph Yarl case, that the defendant, the person who was innocent until proven guilty, who has been charged with shooting him, injuring him, sending him to the hospital. Thank God he's alive, said his mother, because if anybody gets shot in the head, it's a miracle that it didn't pierce through the skull. He has a skull fracture. It's a miracle, but he is forever traumatized. I was listening to his aunt, who has been one of his biggest advocates. She talks about how his brothers, the two little brothers he was there to pick up, were also blaming themselves. But this is the shooter in his case, Mr. Andrew Lester, 85 years old, saying that, and I'll read a bit about what was in the charging document, right? The witness statement, what he said happened, because this is what always happens when it comes to legal cases. You have two sets of facts. You have the plaintiff's facts and you have the defendant's facts, right? Or in this case, the state, who is bringing charges on behalf of the people, right? The state attorney or the district attorney, depending on where you live, was what they're called. And they're saying, these are the laws of the state, and you have violated them. You've broken them. And on behalf of the people of the state, we're going to charge you. And then you have the defendant saying, no, you're looking at these facts completely wrong. That's not what happened. This is what I know happened. And Mr. Lester has alleged that he saw, y'all hit the like button, please, a 6-foot man at his door. How tall is Ralph Yarl? I've read that he's 5'8". But according to this gentleman, that's what he saw coming up to his door late at night. And therefore, he felt he was in danger of his life. That's his story. That's what he alleges in his defense. And there are stand your ground laws in Missouri. So there are two elements that go with stand your ground, and there has to be a trespass, and most of the laws, they vary across the states. There's 28 states in the United States that allow stand your ground. So we're going to get into two elements he has to prove in his defense. They're written differently state by state in the code, in the law, in the statute, right? But they have two general elements that the person can assert. Fear of their life, which is a subjective element, in danger. And then some stand your ground laws don't even have it. It's written in a way that says an appreciable amount of a possibility that the person could be injured, that you or someone else life could be in danger. It doesn't even say specifically. It's so subjective, that component of the law, an appreciable fear, reasonable fear. that someone could be hurt or life can be taken. And then a trespass has to occur, where someone crosses, what we say in law, the threshold of your castle, the castle doctrine of your home, right? That comes from England, the common law, which was laws that were custom, made by custom, what people did back in the early days. This is pre the existence of the United States, right? Where the judges made law. It wasn't written in a statute or a code. It was by judge made, right? Based on the custom of people who lived together were customarily thought of as being married. We thought of that back in that day as the common law marriage, right? You didn't have the paperwork, but the judge deemed that if you were to separate back then, you were common law married. You hear it in the United States. Not every state adheres to that, but we know that there are remnants of English common law all over the United States. So one of them is the castle doctrine, right? Which is the premise that a person has the right to protect their home or their castle, right? And to refuse entry to anyone they desire, right? No one has the right to enter your home. That's the common law, right? So now we have an expansion of that castle doctrine in what we call stand your ground laws, which go a bit further and allow you not only to protect even your home, it can include your car, it can include, depending on your state, your place of business. You have to look state by state in the United States what your stand your ground law cover. I'm just giving you an overview. This is not legal advice. This is just for informational purposes as we discuss it, right? Because this case, the Ralph Yarl case, you'll hear this defense raised. And so from the common law into what has now become statute-based law, code law, now written laws by our legislatures. Now we've taken what was common practice and put it in code. And here we are in the United States. So now the stand your ground premise goes even further, right? And for some states, it allows you the presumption that your life is in danger. So you can use lethal force. There are some that require lethal force depending on the circumstances. Let me say that. It varies state by state. But as an overview of what stand your ground means for those watching around the world. So those laws allow you to use lethal force if you have a reasonable expectation that you are in danger, someone in your house is in danger, or in your property, depending on how it's written. And then you will also see some have a duty to retreat. Some of these stand your ground laws across the country that are written separately in each different state. It's like a different jurisdiction, right? Each state legislature has written them differently. So they vary in each of those 28 states that allow stand your ground. But for an overview, for educational purposes only, I wanted to give you some background as to how they work. Some of them have a duty to retreat once the threat leaves, the person that is the trespasser or who's threatening your life leaves, you have a duty to retreat. Others do not have a duty to retreat. You will hear that term, make my day law, right? But they vary from state to state. But this is what this gentleman is going to be arguing as to why he was in fear and put this little 16-year-old in a hospital. Now he's out of the hospital now, guys. But it is a tragic case. But again, thinking about the public policy behind, when would this ever be okay? And should we permit this type of behavior by law? First of all, now the prosecutor who let him go home, Mr. Lester, the night of the shooting, was sent home after questioning. Initially, he was not arrested. But thanks to the protesters in and around of all colors, all backgrounds, I saw protesters from all walks of life demanding justice in this case. I said, Mr. Lester, regardless of age, because you've heard people also argue he's old, he doesn't know what he's doing. But why did he have a gun if he didn't know what he was doing? But there are so many people that knock at our doorbells each and every day. Knock our door, ring our doorbells. Can you make a presumption that your life is in danger? Or was there another reason why he believed his life was in danger? There are people that have argued that there is, and also the district attorney there in Kansas City has said there is a racial component to why he thought his life was in danger. We're going to talk about it, y'all. I want to hear from you. My phone is like blowing up. I'm all of a sudden, I'm on live, and of course, everybody calls you. But welcome, everybody. Heavy discussion today, talking about the case of Ralph Yarl and others. Young man, let's humanize him because he was a human before this. He's not just a headline. He's somebody's son. He's somebody's nephew. He's somebody's big brother. He is an outstanding, thankfully. He's still here with us. Outstanding student, musician, band section leader, right? Kid with a full life. Loved by his family. And we just never know when these things will happen here. That's really like, it can happen to anybody, as we will see in our discussion today. Please hit the like button. We're talking about the sadness that we as a country and those who watch around the world have been seeing in the United States. Over the last few days, we've seen back to back, random, some people would call it unnecessary taking of life. Based on what people have said is their fear. Some people have said fear of losing their life. Others have said they were racially motivated, like this case. And then we have victims also who are white. So in other cases, there is a white shooter and a white victim. So now what? I'm going to read some of your comments. Welcome, everybody. Hit the like button as you come in. I see you guys are busy. Let me actually read some now. Talking about the Ralph Yarl case, and we'll get to some of the other cases. Let's see who we got. Quincy adds, I'm a cable man. Hello, you're in people's yards. Woo, I'm always turned into the wrong places before folks' addresses aren't clear. Yes, this is true. This is true. This is normal. And you have to be more careful now. I hear you, especially in the rural areas. I hear you. Hey, Bernard, how are you? And welcome, Bernard, host of Facts and the Uncomfortable Truth with Bernard S. Fantastic YouTuber and supporter of this channel. Thank you so much. He says, hit the like button, please, and subscribe. I'm glad to see you. What's up, Reese? The Philly Red Dragon in the building. TTOO adds, no real man, a woman, no real man with a gun, a woman with him. Okay, I hear you. All right, thank you for your opinion. Reese is in the building. Hey, Esther, let me see what you have to say. Esther says, I'm not answering my door for any reason in person. Okay, because I don't trust anyone in such a time as this. I understand that, sis. She says, mental health is not good in the world. Very good point at this moment. Due to COVID pandemic, people are suffering with this is very true, with mental illnesses. I know that we can't use that as an excuse, but it's really sad and really bad. I do think people's temperaments have changed since the pandemic. I absolutely agree with you that a lot of people have become desensitized. Even some may have grown antisocial. You've been locked up in your house, right? We're afraid of everything. Pandemic made us afraid of each other, afraid of you talking to me, you coughing on me, you breathing on me. Like we were super enclosed in like our bubbles. So I agree with you. And then isolation, human beings are not made for isolation. Human beings are made for socialization. We are social. So we were thrown off. I agree with you, but it was like 2 years. But is it enough to explain? And I do think mental health does play a part in a lot of cases. But I also get very weary of when people are in their right minds and they're using mental health as a defense where it shouldn't be used. And I don't know in the details of the cases that we'll discuss today for sure. They haven't had mental health assessments. I don't know about their mental health records, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to make presumptions. But if they should stand trial because they were sane, if you will, put that in quotes, or not suffering from any type of mental challenge or illness, I think we have to make sure we hold people who are accountable. I think we need to do that. But your points are well taken. There are also aspects of cases that can have mental health as a contributory factor of why people reacted the way they do. I hear you on that. Doug says, laws never stop violence. It just creates punishment, but it never deters anyone from committing violence. And that's interesting because the first class you take, one of the first classes you take in law school is con law, constitutional law, and criminal law. So two actually came to mind. Two things about our legal system here in the United States came to mind when you bring this up. In criminal law class, they teach you that one of the reasons we have criminal law, or one of the reasons we have punishment in criminal law, is deterrence. One of the other reasons, and I'm trying to remember, retribution being one, right? Trying to make the other person whole, if you will. But it's funny that you say that it doesn't deter, because one of the purposes of punishment, as we learn in law school, is supposed to be deterrence, right? Other people see, look at what happened to this person who committed this crime. You should not commit this crime as well. It's very interesting. Welcome, Marisol says, it's terrible what our country is going through. When is it going to stop? Let me read it again. It's terrible what our country is going through. When is it going to stop? I'm entertained. Oh, you're entertaining the ideal of leaving the U.S.? Listen, there are people who are so afraid, especially depending on where you live. This is more common. Like I said, these have made headlines. But for us to be at 150 plus mass shootings in the country, and we're on record pace this year, right? We haven't even really started, we're not halfway through the year. So looking at it, it can be very frightening for people. And what do you do? Because again, do you meet force with force? Do you stop yourself from going places? I was at the park yesterday walking, and I was on the phone talking to my homeboy, and then I'm like, okay, wait, it's getting late. I should probably leave. No more hellos, because I'm very talkative. Hello, everybody. Hi. I'll pass you, walk. If I pass a stranger, I nod and say hello. And I thought about it, and I was like, it might be time for me to go home. Ordinarily, I don't go late at night. Just be clear. But I don't know if it's just common sense or if it's just more precaution because of what's happening. There's more of me that, let me, for example, say this. There was a dude in a backpack. Miami got the craziest people, though. I say that with love. Eccentric might be a better word. Let me scratch crazy and say eccentric people. Dude is in a backpack. The music is blaring loud from like a speaker in his backpack. Loud. I get out of my car. I'm like, where's that music come from? Oh, that dude right there in the backpack. So it's a walking trail, but there's several trails in the park that can give you a mile. So you can pass people, or you can take a detour into a different trail, and it kind of goes in like a circular, but several different, pathways to make the circle. So, but I saw a dude with the backpack loud with his big blue blocker shades on. I'm gonna give it a young person, maybe in the 20s, late 20s, early 30s. But it was a couple of times when I was walking, he's standing directly in my path. Like I would have to get close to him. Bruh, I'm not walking close to you, bro. Detour next path. I'm down the road. I'm over here, sir. If you want to purposely put yourself in the middle of this path where I have to go close to you, I would have to literally walk off the path onto the grass to go around you, which is going to seem awkward. How about I'm going to cut right here and head down the other path anyway? Because I don't want him to be close enough, and this is just me again, to grab me, touch me, do anything to me. And this is a public park where other people are walking. And I'm still like, no, bro. Why you stop? This is me. Maybe I'm overly cautious. But people react in weird ways, in unpredictable ways. Hey, Miss AKA Lady, great to have you. Esther adds, I am appalled at these shootings because they were not necessary. This is the key. When we talk about Ralph, this is a question I want to ask you guys because this came up. Let me go back. Question remains. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Question remains. I'm going to read your comment in just a minute, my love. Is it reasonable? Because people hit the like button, please. It says it's unnecessary, and I'm agreeing with you. Because question remained after why Mr. Lester was released after only a few hours after being detained the night of April 13th, right? That's when the shooting took place. That night, Ralph was asked to pick up his siblings and mistakenly went to 1100 Northeast 115th Street instead of 1100 Northeast 115th Terrace, police and Ralph's family have said. So if it's unnecessary and he initially was released, was he going to be charged? Or were the police officers making their call that this was an accident? This is why people went to the street, started to protest, even in the very neighborhood where it happened. People of all backgrounds started to gather, and I'm grateful that they did, because it got the prosecutor's attention, the social media attention around it, and the people on the ground that stood together, protested, marched together in that neighborhood, justice for Ralph, made them take a second look, right? And accountability is the most important piece. Then you started to see headlines like this. Teenager Ralph Yarl leaves hospital. And again, he was in there quite a few days, but thankfully he's home now, 84, charged with following wrong door shooting. Teenager Ralph Yarl's mother has described how he's lucky to be alive after he was shot in the head, according to this report. So yeah, this gentleman and his stand your ground premise is really, to me, what this case will hinge on. Again, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But his version of the facts, Mr. Lester's, and I'll read the statement. Mr. Lester said to the police that Ralph Yarl touched his doorknob and started turning his doorknob. That's according to the defendant. Ralph said he never touched the door. So again, two versions of facts. Who will the jury believe? He said he shot because the 6-foot tall man was coming into his house. Was released the same night, and it was not until, I believe, public pressure, they had to file some charges. Now, thankfully, Ralph has survived this shooting, but being shot in the head, after he comes to the door, rings the doorbell, he says they don't exchange any words. According to, again, Mr. Lester, the defendant, he sees a 6-foot tall young man coming to the door and opening the door, putting his hand on the doorknob. Ralph said no words were exchanged, according to Ralph's testimony and his sworn statements. No words were shared. And the man pulled out a gun through a glass door and shot him in the head, causing him to fall to the floor. Then went over him and shot him again in the arm. Now, I'm not sure how Missouri's laws are written when it comes to stand your ground and the duty to retreat or no duty to retreat. Ralph then runs to two other neighbors, refuse to help him. It's late at night. They see a young man with bleeding out of his head. No help. Next door. Thank God he managed to run away. Third door. Told him to lay on the ground. Get on the ground. This is the neighbor. Because the neighbor, again, I can't really blame the neighbor, because you see what you see coming at your door, which is somebody with blood coming out their head. So you trying to figure out what's going on. He told Ralph, get on the ground and lay down. And then call for help. It's a strange set of facts. Esther, let me read some comments. Esther says, thank you. Esther says, I'm appalled at these shootings because they were not necessary. They did not have to shoot them, and their lives were not threatened, in her opinion. They are trigger happy and paranoid. TTOO, thank you, Esther says, never know the full story. You don't know if these people were running their mouth before they caught the bullets. Now, according to Ralph's statement, they did not exchange any words. A simple, what do you need? Where you here? Go away. Wrong address. You don't say anything, according to Ralph. Again, we'll have to see what where it goes in court and what comes out in terms of a trial, if it goes to trial, if he doesn't plead, right? What testimony would come out there. But according to the early statements, Ralph said no words were exchanged. Are you in fear of your life? So where you also, if you believe there was a trespass, because did a trespass occur is the first element. Coming on his property, ringing his doorbell. saying that he saw him touch the doorknob, was coming into his house. How could... Okay. We'll see in court when these come out. So many questions I have. I swear they're going to use white man's age as a factor for his rash decisions. Yeah, and I've heard this come up, and I keep telling people we have 80-some-year-olds all over our government, right? From the Joint Chiefs to the senators. Majority of our senators are, octogenarians. They're older adults, and they're fully, many of them, functioning. We have some people now, Dianne Feinstein and others, that people are questioning their abilities now. But people are running the government at this age, right? There are people who are going to say that is compromising. Yay. Chris says, hey, happy to be here representing Maxfield Avenue, Wagwan, Maxfield Avenue, Kingston 13. Stand up. Glad you're here, brother. Appreciate you watching, and welcome everybody watching on our co-sponsors, Jamaicans.com. Appreciate you being here, talking about law, justice today, wondering why. And let me read the statement, Quincy. Before I read your statement, let me read the statement. This is what had been reported. When he arrived at the house, Ralph said he rang the doorbell and waited a while before a man actually opened the door and immediately shot him in the head. Now, I've been reading that it had went through a glass door was the first report that I read, but this is a different account, causing him to fall. The probable cause statement says, while the teenager was still on the ground, the man fired again, shooting him in the arm, Ralph told police. Lester, that's Mr. Andrew Lester, who's been charged, told police he opened his interior door and saw a black male approximately 6 feet tall pulling on the exterior storm door handle, according to the document. So there are two doors. So open the exterior door according to him. That's according to him. So there was enough probable cause finally to make an arrest, though, and improve it, because how do you get from that to this? Which is what we saw and why it caught so many of our attention across the world in terms of the headline. Ringing a doorbell. According to Mr. Lester, opening an outside door. According to Mr. Yarl, he didn't touch the door. So we'll let them prove that out in the court of law, right? I wish there was like a Ring doorbell. Oh my goodness gracious. I wish there was. Let me get some more of your comments, please. Quincy adds, I predict they will try to say he was afraid and old, so he feared for his life, and this young man being black will be the icing on the cake, because young black folks are wild in the media's eyes. A lot of people have had that tension in saying that for some reason this one feels racially motivated, looking at the age of the perpetrator, looking at the age of the victim. There are people who really agree with this and say, again, the prosecutor himself says there's a racial component, but won't say out loud. He hasn't even told the attorneys, Lee Merritt and Mr. Ben Crump, what he thinks that component is. We've seen this before. Hit the like button, guys, as we talk about this. This is very interesting. I wanted to talk about this. I haven't watched. Is it a documentary, TTO, about King Von? And I don't know how true it is. That's why I haven't really spoken on it. That King Von, who is an American rapper, now deceased, passed away actually due to gun violence in Atlanta. But he's from the old block, Chi-Town stand-up, known as a very, violent area of Chicago, riddled, sorry for the pun, with gun violence. No laughing matter, actually. And he has been alleged to have taken people's life from the age of 15, 16. That's crazy. Yeah, that's the question. And I'm not sure. I would love to understand a little bit more in terms of the Missouri law and how it's written as to where the castle begins in terms of your driveway, your porch, your doorway. It goes by state. But I think the property line But again, I don't know the Missouri stand your ground law. Esther adds, they're going to test their mental illness and declare them mentally ill. You think so, sis? I'm going to watch these cases closely. I hear you. I hear you. Let me see what other opinions. Hey, Deja Vu, how are you? Good to have you. Appreciate you being here. Andrew, long time no see, my brother. I soon drop the link. This is him, thankfully, out of the hospital. Young man, thankfully. It did not pierce his brain, thankfully. This could have been a whole different outcome. More likely than not, he would have lost his life had the bullet really done what it was intended to do. But he is on a long road to recovery, speech therapy, all of that, and emotional trauma. I was saying that one of his aunt, who has been on TV and been a fierce advocate all over the news and trying to get, interview after interview, tell the story. She's just like his little brothers, the two little ones that he was going to go pick up, who his mom had asked him, hey, go pick up your brothers. Here's the address. They started to feel guilt. They started to say, was it because of me? And, it's a family trauma that everyone is continuously living with. It's not just, okay, he's at the hospital. And I've seen that his school, Ralph Yarl school, has done rallies for him. There's a GoFundMe for him. I think it crossed $2 million the last time I checked, for his legal defense and medical fees set up by his mom. It's a lot going on that we don't want to kind of put aside because, okay, he's out of the hospital. Right? We have to see this through this trial. Andrew says, it breaks my heart to see such a great example of a human being being taken out in such a way. He's lucky that he's alive. God bless him. Because from where he sat in that hospital, didn't have to be. I pray that he recovers, but he will never be 100%. The act of shooting someone without any care is horrible and a shame. The fact that he was so quick to shoot this youth speaks to his racial issues. And again, I cannot wait to hear what the prosecutor really is referring to when he says there's a racial component. Because if there is a racial motivation, we could see a possible add-on, a federal hate crime add-on in terms of where he could be prosecuted federally, right? And he could get a longer sentence. That's all if this is speculation, if he's ever convicted, et cetera, et cetera. But it might warrant an increase of the charge, right, to include hate crime if there is a reasonable, right, provable racial motivation right here. So I don't know what the prosecutor keeps alluding to, the state attorney or district attorney, as it's called, depending on your state. The person who brings the charges on behalf of the state for breaking the laws of the state on behalf of the people. He keeps alluding to there is a racial component, but doesn't say what. Yes, I would have loved to see a Ring camera doorbell here. Yeah, they shooting white people too. We're going to get to the next case now. And the King Von case, I see you guys talking about it. We're talking about what the tragedy is that is happening. You guys hit the like button, support the stream if you can. There's so many parts of these stories that, just kind of like fly by the headline. I wanted to take a minute just to kind of go over what it is that happened, why. Hit the like button, please. Support if you can. I appreciate everybody watching and knowing that this is something that is not always easy to talk about, but we got to take a pause for people who didn't have any reason to have their lives cut short except making a mistake, right? And we're going to talk about what happened in upstate New York. Kaylin Gillis, 20 years old, lost her life after turning into the wrong driveway. And again, this is a pattern that we're seeing, even as many as 10 days, like it's back to back, guys, that I've asked myself, what's happening? And I'm sure many of you are also asking yourself the same. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button, comment if you want to, and share so other people can see the stream. Appreciate you guys. Hey, Shatrice from Richmond, VA on the Facebook side. Glad you're here, says thank you so much. Facts and the Uncomfortable Truth of Bernard says the other problem is a lot of people will not get mental health help. Yeah, this is the exact reason why this is my major. He's back in school, y'all. Bernard said he's going to help the people get it right, and I appreciate you. Yes, mens rea, the mental state. It's part of, okay, criminal law. Let's go. You have to prove both the mental state, depending on the crime, and the act, right? Your evidence that you present, right? Whether it's witness testimony, whether it's actual evidence collected by, forensics team. Supporting mens rea is what people say and do, is what you try to paint to a jury in terms of the picture of what's going on in a person's mind. And it's up to the prosecutor to say, based on the behavior, based on the witness statements, right? What happened? Can we give a jury enough evidence to show the mindset was based on, and here we could say it would be a hateful intent towards another person because of their race, right? I also noticed that they didn't charge him with any type of murder charge in the Ralph Yarl case, right? Because the mindset of murder is premeditation, right? First, second, and third degree. It's very interesting that they charged him with an assault charge as well. And some people were questioning why not an attempted murder. It's very interesting. I want to read more of the charging documents and the early witness statements, right? And see what, yes, let's see. Doug's like, hey, y'all get with it. This country was founded on violence. It will never end. Hey, DL, good to see you. Long time no see, brother. I hope all is well. Damon is in the building. Thank you, Damon. Appreciate you being here. Quincy adds, so the overprotective male, this is why I would rather women not be alone, walk in groups as much as possible. Yes, and with a man at least. Yeah, I be on the phone, talking about walking in the park. I love walking or jogging, and I always have to be very careful. I don't go all the time. I try to go in the day earlier, closer between, like, it's long days now, 5 to 7. But yeah, every now and then it's like, oh, it's 7, it's 7:30, it's 8, it's still kind of light out, and you're still trying to get that last little lap in, and it's not really worth it. Yes. Peace, everybody. Glad you're here. TTO talking about reasons why I love women that are pit bulls in the skirt. You want her to pull out? Jesus. You want her to be ready? You want her to pull out the stick when she's ready? No, I'm not joking about that. But no, serious. I hear you. But this was the headline. This was the headline, y'all. As we talk about more of these cases and why you think they're happening, the headline was 20-year-old woman. 20-year-old woman was shot and killed after her friend turned into the wrong, this is according to CNN, driveway in upstate New York, officials say. And that was on the 19th, excuse me. And as we saw the story, the woman identified as Kaylin Gillis was a passenger in a vehicle when the 65-year-old Kevin Monahan fired 2 shots from his front porch, according to Washington County Sheriff Jeffrey Murphy in a news conference held on Monday. Blake Walsh, Gillis's girlfriend, said he was driving the car the night they drove up the wrong driveway. He told NBC Tuesday in a phone interview that he, his late girlfriend Kaylin, and 2 friends were looking for a party. 4 friends were traveling in another vehicle. There was also a motorcycle. I'm sorry, did I continue this? Okay, I didn't continue this. But there was also a motorcycle, which, again, this man who has been charged now, he has been charged with second-degree murder. Kevin Monahan, 65, said he was in danger of his life standing at his porch and watching what I would call loosely a caravan, right? 3 to 4 vehicles. 3 cars, a motorcycle. He said the motorcycle was making a lot of noise, revving, and according to him, thought people were coming into his house. So from his porch, he shot at them, taking the life of Kaylin. Wild. 65 years old. So again, should turning into the wrong driveway warrant a loss of life? Yeah. Miss AKA Lady adds, it's funny how people aren't accountable until the public makes a fuss. That's what in the Ralph Yarl case, many said it would have been a wrap. He would have been at home living the rest of his life, the alleged shooter. But here we have a man standing in his porch. Again, young people out together looking for a party in rural, the upstate. If you've ever driven through upstate New York, first of all, it's beautiful. I've gone to, I think it's the Catskills. I flew into an airport up there to visit a friend one time in Jersey. Beautiful. Like lots of greenery. It's almost bushy. It's like a lot of thick foliage, trees, and especially in like the summer, lush greenery. The houses are hidden back behind long driveways of thick and plush foliage, very treesy, right? So when they say upstate New York, don't think about the city. No, it is rural. It has a lot more. People are spread out, and it is a lot more. I did just say green, right, with big trees and lots of foliage. So when you're driving these windy roads, it's hard to find the houses. Even when we drove that night, I remember they were like, maybe deer will come across. Be careful. Like when we were driving to the city, this is like an hour and a half outside of the city, maybe 2. And I just remember thinking, these are some gorgeous homes. They have a little bit like lakes in between them. Like people have boats go out on the lake in these areas. It was just beautiful. I was like, these are some big money homes. And it's very rural, right? You still have like the town square. You go into the main street and it's literally one main street with the post office, the bank, and like some major, maybe Applebee's or something like that. And it's like there's Main Street USA. It just reminds me of how up north, because it was the first place that was colonized, the way the cities or the country towns are set up are like old fashioned, right? Where there's a city center and different places around it. But yeah, so it would be difficult. I could see it would be difficult to find a party or a house that you did not know. But driving up the driveway, the motorcycle making loud noises, is that enough justification? And New York does not have stand your ground. So I think that's why he got the murder 2 charge. But yeah, it's what your point you're making, Miss AKA Lady, is a strong point for sure. Yeah, some people asked about this when I spoke on this on the Roland Martin show. Again, I'm on Roland Martin's channel, his YouTube channel, Black Star Network, every Wednesday from 3 to 5. I was asked about this. People mentioned that, I don't know if there's evidence on the door from Ralph Yarl, whether he touched the door or not. Was there any dusting or anything that was done that night? I don't know. We'll see as evidence comes out more. Yeah, we'll see. Thank you. Jacent says, so unfair what that man did. He is to be punished. I hear you. Thank you for your opinion. Thanks for sharing your voice here in the chat. TTO says, a person tries to get into your house not saying anything. What are you going to do? Now, that's, again, one version of the facts. One version of what the defense says are the facts. I don't know. I'm putting myself reasonably in a 16-year-old's head. If I'm a 16-year-old boy, and again, I'm not saying, just playing devil's advocate here. Am I touching a door and opening it if I'm a Black kid? I don't think I'm doing that. In Kansas City, you think a Black kid, a 16-year-old, is touching a door and opening it of a house he doesn't know? I don't know. That's the argument that can be made. I don't know. Tries to get in. That's strong language. I don't know if the evidence will prove that out, TTO. I don't know. Quincy says, see, we still in sundown towns in America where the sun goes down, you better not be around. That was a big thing, especially pre-civil rights, but it still exists. Where people who are in places that are called sundown towns will be harassed by law enforcement or worse. This still exists, unfortunately. Miss AKA Lady adds, if your temper is short or your paranoia is high, then you don't need to own a gun. Now, that's another part of the mental health discussion that could be a solution to some of what we're seeing. Now, Florida, for example, has changed its laws to permitless carry. we may need to have a discussion about ongoing mental health checks for people who own weapons. Because if you are now 85, if you are now, this man is 65, but wherever age you are, if your mental health changed, it's almost like we wait for, the house fire to start and we don't kind of like check the rooms or before it has started. So you have situations where people who may be showing signs of mental deterioration, because I didn't even get into the Mr. Lester's grandson. Did y'all see Mr. Lester's grandson come out and say his grandpa was not racist, the other one with some braids looking kind of thing going on? I don't know if he's maybe biracial or something. I don't know. His statement was that his grandpa, I'm paraphrasing, watched a lot of Fox News, was prone to racist thinking, and it was reinforced by what he watched. That's very interesting. But yeah, this that you bring up, my dear, about mental health, I think after gun ownership might be a place where we could talk about possible policy. I'm not sure. Did the police test the doorknob and the young man's? Yes, that's what we don't know, Esther. I don't know the answer to that question. Someone asked me that on my last live. Is the people who are doing this country wrong doing, is the people who are doing this country wrong doing what we need to pull together as one? That's another thing. The policymakers are going to sit quiet. I haven't heard nobody say anything, but I'm sorry. Thoughts and prayers. It's really wild. And we're going to get into this next case, guys. Hit the like button if you're enjoying this discussion. We're just talking about the rash of shootings, which I'm calling an American tragedy of young people seemingly making innocent, you want to call it mistakes, but ringing a doorbell at the wrong house, mistake. Driving into a driveway, looking for a party, mistake. And this one here, the case of Miss Peyton Washington and her friend, who were shot after opening an incorrect door, a car that they thought was there in an H-E-B grocery store. I think that's the name of the grocery store chain. Opened the door. The door was unlocked. There was a man seated in the passenger seat. They quickly realized, oh, this is not our car. Close the door. Walk away, walk away, walk away. Man chased them. This one also bothers me a lot. Now, opening the door of a vehicle is very intimate space. Again, that's like castle doctrine, depending on where you live and if you have stand your ground, that applies to your vehicle as well as your house or your business. Open the door, probably startled him. They were startled. Oh no, wrong car, sorry. But then for him to come after them and shoot two people, two cheerleaders. This one happened in Texas. Elgin, Texas. Y'all hit the like button. This is wild to me. Seeing these facts, I was like, what in the world? What's really happening? So we go from doorbell to driveway now to opening the incorrect door of a car that you thought was yours. What's going on? And the overreaction of shooting at the people that opened your door. What in the world? Let me read Andrew's comment. Andrew says, the child did not have a history of violence or aggression. You're talking about Ralph. Ralph was a band nerd, band student, saying that with love. Blurred in the house. We know, I mean it with love. You could look at his picture. He had no hate, in my opinion. He was raised in a balance to be balanced and decent. Your opinion of Mr. Ralph Yarl. His only mistake was being black. Strong sentiment. Thank you, Andrew, for sharing your thoughts. Oh, really, Damon? The GoFundMe for Ralph Yarl is now at 3.4 million. Dang. People are giving. People were really impacted by that someone could shoot a kid, 16-year-old, 5'8". Mr. Lester said he saw a 6-foot man through his second door, his two doors, and shot through. Miss AKA Lady adds, thank God he made it alive. Yes, that he's still living. But prayers and strength to his family. It's a long road ahead of them. The killer probably don't have the money to pay for all them expenses. Listen, hey everybody, thank you again for everybody watching. Team Replay, hit the like button if you're just watching now. Talking about the American tragedy that's going on, back to back to back to back. Shootings of individuals for simple mistakes. Hey Kojo, bless up. Nice to have you. Thanks so much for being here and for watching. Hit the like button, please, and be sure to comment. Let me know what you're thinking about today's topic and share. Let me see. Andrew has a comment. Andrew's from New York, so he says upstate New York. Listen, it's different from the city, huh? Does not play. Andrew said you pull up to the wrong house, you will get shot in certain areas. It is far different from like the city. It is very rural. Yes. Good comment. Hey, good to see you, Wonderful 34. Glad you're here. Esther adds, I hope young people and everyone will take these cases into consideration and be very careful of their whereabouts. Call the person whose house you're going to before stepping a foot. Listen, I was talking to a client. This was like, what was this? Wednesday? No, Tuesday. No, maybe Tuesday. And he was like, because it was, we had all these bad rains here in South Florida. And he was like, it's not pouring by you. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, pull over. And he's like, I'm going to stop in this yard. I don't know whose house it is. I was like, Jesus, I don't want him. He's a black man, maybe in his 50s. I was like, God, please. I was like, you sure? You're good? You want to go to a park or you want to go to McDonald's? You sure? He's like, no, I'll stop at this house. And I'm thinking, made me think twice, honestly. So that goes for young, grown up, grown, whoever. I thought to myself, be careful, because he said he stopped in somebody's yard, like in someone's driveway. I was like, oh my God, John, you should be able to do that. You should be able to do that. Call the person whose house you're going to, says Esther, before stepping foot on the property that you might be looking at a gun pointing at you. We live and we learn from things like this. Listen, this is a serious time in the US of A. Serious time. Andrew, hey, Ebony. I appreciate you. Glad you were here, says Doug. I'm reading your comment. You're talking about at this point, I would have shot first and asked questions later. I'm better now, but no, at one point in time, you're saying, okay, I'm better now, but at one time I would have hurt somebody. I hear you. Thanks for being honest. Let me see. Doug adds, to keep it real, 10 years ago, if you would have shown up to my house after dark unannounced, I probably would have shot someone. I was robbed at gunpoint by 2 men in my teens. I'm sorry to hear that, and suffered serious PTSD. That's serious. And I thought about that, these cases, but I mean, especially the one of the driveway has such far proximity. Like, it wasn't a encroachment on you. Ralph was so close to the man, he could see him. So I'm sure his body language, but maybe he didn't see none of that. He just saw a black figure, black man. It's interesting, Doug. I'm sure there are people that also can relate to that. Thank you for your honesty, because it's not easy out here. Esther adds, he is traumatized for the rest of his life, and a trial will only add to it. Going over and over with the questions during the trial, preparation for the trial, all of that. God help him by protecting, comforting, and seeing him through his time of trauma. Absolutely agree, 100%. Andrew adds, I'm in Ulster, County, by map of Bel Air. Is that how you say that? Ski Lodge. Okay, cool. That's where my family's home, and Kingston was the first capital of New York. I hear you. If you are stuck on the road, do not walk up to people's houses, especially on Route 28. They will shoot you if they don't know who you are. Okay. Upstate, y'all, this is Andrew's experience. Thank you for sharing that. Quincy says, folks don't instill those values we once had about being careful with white folks. His opinion. This is still a conversation we must have with Black children. Now, that's a thing that we've heard now become a little bit more mainstream when we're talking about the talk. I know my parents had the talk, both with me and my brother, about how people can perceive your Black skin without you even having anything, no presence of mind to it. Walking in a store, walking around too long, people will perceive you might be doing something wrong. You might be trying to take something, even though you're just shopping. So my mom would say, always greet the clerk loud. Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon. You good? I'm good. Just browsing, like loud. I see you. You see me. I'm watching you. You watching me. Because especially when you're young, you're younger. I'm talking about my teenage years and in early 20s. You have to be aware of how others' perception affects your reality. You're not living that reality. You're just trying to live your life. But the perception of what might be interpreted by others of your look, of even your behavior, as innocent as it might be, you have to be aware of. And so that talk and understanding again, you're the only Black person in that school. You're the only Black person at that party. You're the only Black person here. How people might interpret your behavior can be different from how they might interpret others. And it's sad what happened to contents of your character as opposed to color of your skin. But Quincy points out he feels, now this is a broad brush, but there's still a conversation that we must have. All right, I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me see. I'm a little bit behind the chat, guys. Sorry. Let me see. If a person has street conflicts as CTOO, then it's a different mindset. That's what I'm gathering from these cases. This was not one-on-one. I have beef with you. You disrespected me. Some kind of interaction, a personalized interaction between two people. These were complete strangers, right? Coincidentally crossing paths. And an assessment threatened my life. I felt my life was in danger. We're going to get to this case with Miss Peyton and her fellow cheerleader and what happened to them. Welcome, everybody. Leave your comments. I see you. Andrew said, I once opened a wrong car door with my key. Let me tell you, some of these factories, my heart goes out to these girls. Listen, I think in college, I'm pretty sure once or twice I opened the wrong car door. I think I have even gone up to the wrong car now, but it's like the car's the same, like everything color, and I have a unique color. So I was like, oh my God, that's not my car. So no, now I always click my alarm first. I click my alarm, and then I go find my car. Right? But it can happen. It's not like an unheard of thing. Street people sometimes act first because they're on high alert, opening a car door. Listen, let me show you the defendant. Hit the like button as you come in, guys. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Chris. Let me see what your comment is here as we get ready to talk about Peyton. Chris says the 16-year-old who was shot is just 1 year older than my son. I would worry so much about him and how the world views him. That's what I'm talking about. These stories are a reminder of how fractured, and at times broken our world is. Thank you for sharing that sentiment. People feel this way. I'm sure agree with you fully. If you have a young person, especially a young kid of color, a Black kid, you are in your heart thinking, God, bring them home. God, please allow them to make good judgments again. They're just living their life. I don't know that Ralph perceived how the man might have perceived him. He was just, okay, let me go get my brothers, right? But even didn't get a chance to interact with him, is according to Ralph. Door open, bow. No words exchanged according to Ralph. That's wild to me. That is wild to me. It just makes me think, like, what in the heck have we gotten to? And will that stand your ground prevail? It's wild. Leave your comments, guys. We're talking about the senseless shootings, what I'm calling the American tragedy. We've been seeing across the country. We're going to talk about 2 more cases real quick and get out of here. Let's talk about Peyton them. They opened up the wrong car door. This young lady, Peyton Washington, 18, was in the hospital, right? Due to this shooting, 2 high school cheerleaders, her and her cheermate, were shot after one of them mistakenly tried to enter the wrong vehicle near, the place is called Eldrin, but it's near Austin, Texas. Only 18 years old, right? Sent to ICU. If you see video, there is video out there. I didn't want to get copyrighted of the friend telling the whole cheerleader squad, the team, what happened and crying, and the coach there with him. Her father been speaking out. It's just tragic. You shoot after them. The person who is being blamed is this guy. Remove myself. Let me just skip the big. 25-year-old suspect, Pedro Teo Rodriguez Jr. 25 years old. That's who police say came after them and shot after them. It's wild. It's absolutely, it's just wild to me. It's just crazy to me. It has happened to many of us. I don't know if you've ever opened a door. Cujo adds, hey Cujo, again, thanks for being here, says, senseless killing is happening all over the world. Okay, not just in America. It seems like people are so tense and uncompassionate amongst each other. Stress and anxiety, this is true, is high level. Changes in life, and it's getting worse. 100%. 100%. Let me see. Damon adds, my son is 18. Wow. And I have had that talk with him several times over the years. This is sad, but it's true. Miss AKA Lady adds, you are responsible for every bullet that leaves your chamber. Your actions have the right. Your actions have to be right, even in hindsight. Hey, Mandrell, welcome. We're talking about what's going on here. Wild times we live in. Yeah, this was the final headline, guys. That really caught me. I was really perturbed when it came to this one. Saying police arrest man who allegedly shot, did we get the age? The 6-year-old baby, the 6-year-old little girl, when her basketball rolled into his yard. Thankfully, they caught this one in Florida, no doubt. This happened in North Carolina, but he was held in Hillsborough County, I believe, Florida. What in the world? What in the world? This little girl, Kingsley, if you see this interview where she's like, why did you shoot my daddy? Why did you shoot me? Guys, I'm going to drop the link. We're going to come up. If you want to come up for comments here, I'm going to probably give us a few minutes just for comments, because this is, again, heavy stuff. Hit the like button as you come in. Just wondering why. And what do you think about each case? If there is a case you want to talk about, join the conversation now. I'm going to drop the link and you can come up. All right. And you can tell me, hit this link that you see in the chat, and you can tell me what you think about what's happening here. But there's so many similarities, and then it's still kind of crazy. This little girl, 6 years old, her and her father, again, my friend, a good friend of mine, Ken Lemon, who is a reporter, ABC, I believe, reporter in North Carolina, came through. And this is the story, you guys, of this one. It says neighbors told ABC News Charlotte affiliate WSOC the shooting on Tuesday started when a basketball rolled into the Singletary, and I'll show you who the gentleman is, the neighbor, yard from a group of local children playing basketball in the street. The suspect, Singletary, allegedly fired his weapon at a neighbor before approaching a father and daughter, William James White and 6-year-old Kingsley White, were both seriously wounded. Like for real though? Like for real though. The 24-year-old man, accused of shooting the 6-year-old girl, her parents, and another neighbor after the basketball rolled into his house in North Carolina, is now in police custody. Robert Singletary, I'll show you his picture, appeared in court on Friday and signed an extradition waiver. They caught him in Florida. Okay. He turned himself in on Thursday to the Hillsborough County Sheriff in Tampa. So he had made it all the way down here after going on this crazy rampage, shooting this little 6-year-old girl, her, father, and another neighbor for a ball rolling into the yard. This is the guy, Robert Singletary. This is his mugshot. Now, this one also is just terrible. This one is also just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Now, there are people who lived in the neighborhood who said they weren't surprised that he had been a short-tempered type person. So they weren't completely, taken by surprise that this happened. But it's still shocking that a ball in your neighborhood is what happens, what leads to this. It says cheerleader could have said, "I'm going to get someone, you this and that." I don't know. But that's total speculation. TTOO. It says you don't know the full story because they don't know each other. You don't know what was said. Now, again, in several cases, they're saying there were no words exchanged. That's the crazy part. I'm here for a few more. Drop the link. I've dropped the link in the chat. DL is in the back. Hey, DL, how are you?
What's good, Sue? How you feeling?
Good. Long time no talk, bro. How you been? Yeah,
Oh,
it's in my city. Yes, he was in Tampa. Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
saw that. I saw that down here. I'm like, oh man, see everybody getting to Tampa. So yeah, we ain't we need
Always
amendment two. We need amendment two. It's just these people who are outside of the law still. I mean, this is outside of the law. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
all
You
all
shooting
these
babies?
exactly 6-year-old. Now I know you are. Would you consider yourself a gun enthusiast? Okay, I didn't want to put words. Okay, keep it down. Whoa, wait. Yeah, I figured you are. What were your thoughts after seeing these cases or any of the specific cases I've kind of covered? What were your thoughts?
You know, it's sad, it's tragic, and I mean, people don't understand how important the Second Amendment is and what it's really for. There's a lot of people who misinterpret it. Then you get stuff like this. So you have basically two camps. You have people who don't like firearms for whatever reason or don't understand firearms, and you have people who do. And there's people who read and people who don't. So you have this thing. There's people like, well, look at this horrible thing. We should do away with these firearms because, like the president said, this is the number one deleter of children, which is a lie. Cars are. No one's talking about getting rid of automobiles. More Americans die in automobile crashes than will ever die. Yeah, with mishaps of firearms and this and that. Having said that, we have a problem. So how do we fix this problem? And I'll give you an example. The thing in Texas with walking up to the wrong car, and the thing in what was it, Missouri, with the
Mhm.
16-year-old brother walking up to the wrong door.
Yeah,
If you let that man in Missouri get away with what he did, because the initial story said he fired through the door, but it turns out he actually opened the door and then he opened fire.
yeah.
All right, well, here's a scenario. An undercover police officer comes up to your door. You're telling me if they don't do anything to this old man, you're telling me it's okay for me to open the door and engage this person before they can even identify themselves? Because this is what we got to look at.
I agree with you, and I brought that up as a public policy interest. You have delivery people, you have Uber, you have everybody should be able to come to your gate, knock at your door, and say, "Hey, is this the address? Yes or no?" and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Like there's so many,
Yes.
like American commerce depends on people being able to go up to a door. And I don't know about in different neighborhoods. They have door to door sales people all the time, depending on where you live, trying to sell people who
Mary
cable,
Kay. Look at Mary
internet,
Kay. Remember
Mary
back in the
Kay.
day?
That has been a normal part of American culture. But now this type of behavior is like, again, I agree with you. It creates a different policy shift if we don't address it. It's
If we
now
don't address
saying,
it. Mm-hmm.
is it okay for you to do that? No. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, I have so many stories, and I remember once I was in Broward County. This is when I was working in Miami. A buddy of mine, former Air Force guy, he had a friend, former Air Force girl, who was having a birthday party at her house somewhere in Broward, somewhere in Fort Lauderdale area. So he was like, all right, man, I'll go. So it's two very well dressed black dudes. And my buddy's like, I think this is the house. I'm like, what do you mean you think? So we're driving. He's like, I think this is it. We pull up, get out the car. And like, you're saying that old girl is Air Force? Like, she got a boyfriend or a husband? Like, no. And he's walking up to the house. I'm like, American flag, Marine Corps flag, bumper stickers, my son's a Marine, all this stuff, right? And to me, right away, I'm like, this could get ugly fast, bro. Are you sure this is the house? So we're standing out front of the home on the sidewalk, going back and forth. Are you sure? A lot of pointing towards the house going on. Are you sure this is the house? Well, in the front room, there's a window, and there's a man sitting in his house at the window. He's watching us. We finally walk up to the house. My buddy's ahead of me a few paces. He knocks on the door. I watch the man grab a weapon out of his dresser or out of his desk, comes to the door, opens the door, and right away I'm like, easy, Marine. I'm hanging out here with my buddy who's Air Force. You know, Air Force ain't too bright. He's looking for, I'm trying to keep it light. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because this about to be a situation. Yeah.
This man was ready to go. And in my mind, I'm like kind of new to Florida. I'm like, he might be within his rights if he decided to shoot us. So I'm sitting there like, let me try to defuse this situation. I'm unarmed. This was back in 2010. Now, like that's an example of how, you need to be aware of your surroundings. When the story broke with the young boy, the 16-year-old brother who was, engaged by this guy. I'm trying to be careful with my words. YouTube is really on the tear right now.
Yeah. I might get demonetized, but I'm not worried. But go ahead.
You might. But so I was talking to my daughter right away about it. I told her what happened, and I'm like, hey, this is why I'm always on you to pay attention to detail. You need to understand what's going on around you. We talked about active shooter events. I talked to her about, hey, if you see some people wearing trench coats and it's hot, what are you thinking? She's like, well, I don't know. That's strange. Exactly. So, I'm telling her what to do. Be careful what house you go up to. I use this example. I said, listen, you could be sitting outside the wrong house or go up to the wrong house and somebody might do something to you because it's the wrong house. And then the next day that story broke about the girl in the driveway going, in the wrong driveway. So this is the reality. I don't have the answers, guys. I don't. But you need to be aware. Your story about your friend, I'm just going to pull up in this driveway. I'm like, that's dumb. Don't do it. Don't do it. Or at least tell me what you want me to do with your stuff, bro.
I encouraged him. I was like, you sure? It was raining too. It was hard. And I was like, you sure don't want to go to a McDonald's? Like find a main street and get into a parking lot of a public plaza and we can talk. But I don't want you to be in anybody's driveway. These days and times, as was mentioned in the chat, it's just it's tense. People are stressed. I don't know if the word is trigger happy, but people are not they're anxious. So things that would have normally elicited like a reasonable response now is like on 10. So you cut me in line. I was in Aldi the other day and this dude, I'm like, you see all 5 of us standing here and you gonna come through the side. Where are you going, sir? So I was like, oh, and like I'm always saying it in a very nice high-pitched voice, relax, but find yourself in the back of the line. like, oh, sir, they're all 5 of us are in the line. And because one lady was still shopping, he was like, well, she's still shopping. Why is she still shopping if the line? I was like, not today. But you're still not going to skip all 5 of them. You know what I mean? But I look at it and I'm like, I still would speak up, but I don't press because I don't know what people are going through. And again, people's mental states. And I like this comment. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Chris. Says for the incident with the little girl and her dad, I think there might have been some degree of mental illness there on the part of the young man who shot them. The one we just spoke about, Robert Singletary, this gentleman who has been apprehended in Tampa will be extradited to North Carolina. Again, ball rolling into his yard and him going for his weapon and shooting 3 people is just uncalled for. Thank you so much for your opinion there. Do you think there is going to be a random car? This is Ms. AKA Lady. A random car sitting in the driveway is going to trigger most people. That's not a false statement. That's not untrue. In the day and age that we live, if you sitting there too long and you don't pull back out and turn, it's what is going on right here? What is going on right here? I hear you. It makes you feel uncomfortable, tense, and rightfully so, because we just don't know who's doing what now. But I still think the reasonable, meet response with response is not necessarily, and I don't think you're insinuating that, sis, that I'm gonna have to go get my and deal with you, but it will should alarm you in a sense that, okay, let me get my phone ready, let me call 911, let me do some, check out what's going on, and turn on my lights outside or whatever you need to do to kind of let the person know I see you, and if you want to play, we're going to play today. But no, I hear you. But I do think, especially it seemed as if, and I don't know the actual distances, for example, the one from upstate New York, from where he shot from his porch to where the people were. I'd like to know what the distance is, some of the things that come to mind. Because again, where is the threat? If they're going to say, and New York does not have stand your ground, but where is is it an imminent threat? Do you have a reasonable apprehension of or expectation of bodily harm, life or death? And I don't think in his case, that's why I think they brought the charge, there's any defense to a driveway, sitting in the wrong driveway or pulling in the wrong driveway and turning around. I don't know. It just does not seem reasonable. Do you have any scenario where you think any of these cases the person was justifiable, even though they might have overreacted?
No, those people will have to be armed. That's the only way I would see that maybe you have an argument. If the woman in the driveway and the people in the car were armed, maybe you would
Or
have an
flashed a
argument.
gun or something like
Or
this?
even just had
Yeah.
a weapon, just in the vehicle. Even that, just if you're trying to make an argument, you can make an argument. Well, they had a weapon, there. If you, I mean, a weapon loaded, ready to go, not something in the trunk and no ammo. I'm talking about loaded weapons. The same thing with the young brother, 16. If he were armed, maybe you could have an argument. And with the cheerleaders, if they were armed,
Right.
maybe. But
Right.
that's not what we're dealing with here. This is clearly, I'm no attorney. I don't have any experience, but to me, these are just people who want to shoot folk. That's all this is. They think they got an opportunity to shoot. That's why I don't like stand your ground here in Florida. There's another thing about Florida too. Prior to April, in order to have a concealed carry, to have a weapon, you had to have a concealed carry permit. You had to get licensed. There was courses involved. You had to do certain things. Now you don't. So now you have a situation where you can assume every person you see in Florida is walking around with a weapon. They could be armed. They're
100%.
100% of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this
Which
leads
makes
to
them
other issues.
dangerous for both you and law enforcement. Because
Extremely
law
dangerous for law
enforcement,
enforcement.
yeah, they now want to go home to their kids. That's why those people didn't go into Uvalde. They knew what type of weapon the shooter had, and that it'll melt your insides.
Yeah, don't
And
get me on that. I don't
no,
like them Uvalde cops.
I
What
know
they
I'm
did
not
was
defending them, but I'm just saying they gonna shoot first now, for real, because they
yes.
don't know what you have. They presume that you have something, that can really do some damage. So nope, we're not gonna try to preserve life or go, the what should I say, the softer route of, okay, let me try to figure out what's going on here. No. Hindsight 2020, I'm still alive at least though. I'll go to trial. Like
Right.
there's a thought there.
Well, and to your
Um,
point, look at what was it, Louisville with the employee at the bank. One officer
yes.
was engaged through the
Yes.
mirror, and they
I
went
could have
they
added that. Yeah. Again, the Louisville shooting at the bank was more of a young, disgruntled, I think he was like 25, 26
yes.
employee who was told, this is the HR part of it. I'm like, why y'all telling people ahead of time they're going to be let go? If you know you need to not, he need to be locked out, keys changed. Why was he still allowed to be working? Because of stuff like this. Most people understand that you do not allow an employee that you're going to send, unfortunately, packing, to continue to access the building for this very reason, because so many people are disgruntled and not, you know, in their right mind. And so he had been working, I think, in that case, at the bank since he was like maybe in college, like an intern. And they had told him he was going to be let go. I'm like, just let the man go, change the locks, and then and make sure he gets a nice severance and go. But if they were telling him this and allowing him time, nah, that to me was an HR blunder. Notwithstanding, he should never have come back and shut up the conference room with people. It was wild. And
and,
then
and
go ahead.
Well, and the fact that, and it was more to your point where law enforcement is acting in the way that people will assume that they would act. We have this event, this is going on. They're not waiting to get there, and they just rush in, which is extremely brave. I don't
Yes.
I don't believe that falls under the normal scope and duties of law enforcement, in my opinion. That's what soldiers
Yeah,
do.
shout out to Louisville. They and
Shout out to
they
them.
were outgunned. They ran up to the bank, which had a glass wall. The guy, the perpetrator shooter inside could see them. They couldn't see him. So
Right.
they ran alongside this glass wall and bow. You had one go take one to the head
To the
and
head. Now
another
that
one
one,
that scared
and he
me.
was a rookie.
Yes,
The more experienced officer, yeah,
just got
yeah.
sworn in weeks ago. Not even weeks, days ago.
And the
And
more experienced officer had
mm,
a weapon that was comparable to the weapon that the alleged shooter
yeah,
had.
shooter, yeah, yeah,
So they
yeah.
were actually technically the police had the advantage in the fact that they had more numbers, but they couldn't
No,
see him,
through
but
the
he could
thing,
see
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Again, this
Terrible.
is again it goes to training. I talk about like I'm not the biggest fan of law enforcement. I like good cops. I can't stand bad cops, but this is why they need to be trained. They need more training. They need more pay. They need more time off, and they need more mental health. This right here just shows how people are in these echo chambers, and they get into their head that the world is a certain way,
Right.
and these people are armed, and then this is what could happen. What are the answers? I don't know. It's not one easy fix, but you can't
It's
remove the weapons. That's my thing. I'm not cool with that because there's more weapons in this country than there are people. There are 100. I think I want to say it's 120 guns per every 100 people in this country. And that's just the stuff that they know about. That's not counting
right.
all the off the books
Ghost
weapons.
guns and all that other stuff. Yeah.
So
People, yeah. And we know there's illegal weapons that come through all the time. I'm gonna thank you, Dio, for your insights. I'm sorry, I was reading Kojo. Kojo says the chain of thoughts come from within, good and evil, always battling from within. But it's up to us to choose good and not evil. We have the power to stop this nonsense. Gun is not dangerous. Is a person beyond the gun or behind the gun. Think twice before you react. Power of life is in our hands. Thank you for your feedback and your thoughts, Kojo. And a lot of people feel that way. Um, that you hear that a lot. The guns aren't bad as people use the guns, that kind of thing. But I think when people are asking the question about is there common sense regulation, not taking away everybody's stuff, obviously I don't agree with that either. But is there a common sense way to make sure healthy minded people are, maintaining this right and people who might be putting others in danger may not be?
yes,
I
yes,
know we have courts that can, Florida, we have Baker Act, we have other things. And you do have proceedings in different states where someone can, by a judge, have their gun removed if they're going through a mental health crisis. That's not
yes,
everywhere.
yes. Here in Florida.
Yeah, Florida, you can remove the guns, but then sometimes they get it right back. It's kind of like,
Well, yeah, they get them back, but again, at least, but that's common sense and it's on the books. You can do that. My buddy Jay Swan says this all the time, and I say this as well.
mm-hmm.
Everyone has the right to bear arms, and for well-regulated militias, right? When you look at the words, that's what it's talking about. That's why you can bear arms, so you can stand against the government. Okay, now, does everyone have the right to take those weapons out of their home? The Constitution doesn't address that, and I say no. If you want to drive your AK around the streets, then you should have to get a license, same as you do when you want to drive a car. If you want to drive a vehicle and you're 8 years old and you're cool with your kid as a grown-up driving, your 8-year-old driving around the tractor, driving around your property with the vehicle, you don't need a license. That's your property. You're responsible, correct? But that 8-year-old cannot drive a motorized vehicle on the streets with everybody else. So
Yeah.
this is where you begin. I'm not taking away your right to bear arms. All I'm simply saying is if you want to bring those weapons out here with everybody else, you're going to have to meet a certain standard. And that standard should have everything to do with training. It should have everything to do with being able to reach a certain mental health threshold and stuff like that. The problem is when you enact these things, you put them on the books, there will be those who will take advantage of it. So
Yeah.
now they can call you crazy or mentally unstable just so they won't let you have your weapon in public. And that defeats the whole, that would defeat that purpose. But most Americans, I think the number is 60%. Don't quote me on that, y'all, but like 60% of Americans want common sense gun laws,
Sure.
including those of us who are armed. So
Yes.
I'm not okay with constitutional carry. I'm not okay with open, being able to just open carry, which is what they want to do here in Florida. I think that's the dumbest thing in the world. I don't want to see a bunch of people walking around
It's
with
gonna be a
weapons.
wild, wild. It is a wild, wild west right now, but it's gonna be crazy if you can see it. I mean, they have it in Georgia. You walk up to a gas station and you see right on a man hip a big old long gun or a big old thing, or right in his back. They showing you. They letting you know. They someone's like, I dare you. It's a different atmosphere. Andrew, I see you in the back. I'll bring up Andrew, guys. He'll be my last panelist. Appreciate you coming up again. Final thoughts on the American tragedy, the stories behind the recent shootings of young people, and what these tragedies mean. Andrew, welcome. How are you?
I'm fine. How you guys?
Fantastic. I see you
How you
moving
doing?
around. Yes, I can hear you. A little feedback, but we can hear you. How you been?
Yeah, yes. My big thing is I went outside a little. So the family them chat too much, but it's
It's all good.
when. Here's my thing. The biggest issues that is mental illness, cold
Mm,
anger, trying to have balance in your lives. We are lacking this in society. Too many people, especially youth, are going into immediate gratification mode. Before, when we were younger, we had to learn patience. This impulsive behavior could be attached to this. We have people that don't maintain certain attention spans. Like you say about the fact when you want to have an arm, you had to go through a process. Now you're giving these people access to weapons immediately in some states. People don't take time to say, okay, this happened, take a step back, think, assess the situation, then engage. They're going from zero to to 100 in seconds, and what's happening is people are dying from it. In all areas it's happening. I don't care whether it's intimacy, whether it's dealing with your anger. We don't teach coping anymore, and I think that's the biggest factor in these things. That's what's all in common. It's impulsiveness, rhetoric, and you're taking something that's an orange and applying it to a banana. It doesn't work that way. There's not one cookie cutter shape for things. People are crossing their angers and tying in with. I've been watching you all the time and all your clips and everything else. You talk about these things, about how people are so impulsive and how
mm.
they're quick to judge people in cases instead of things and digesting things and thinking. More impulsive and animalistic in our behaviors collectively, and it's not a good thing. We
Mm.
could cause more damage on a rumor. You cause more damage with a gun that's going out there and harming people in bulk. I mean, it's just scary. I mean, like, what are you guys' thoughts on this? Because I think it's just mentality that's going bad in society, and we're dabbling in immediate gratification to deal with our anger and impulses.
What do you think, Dio?
Um, Real quick, before I address that, real quick, brother Chris has a
Mm-hmm.
really good point. He's talking about open carry. You got to, he's talking about a
Oh, yeah.
guy who has his weapon slung over his back or whatever. Here's my problem with open carry. If I'm a bad guy, I'm not on paper anywhere. No one knows what I have on me. And I see you walking in with your brand new AR, your brand new AK, your brand new whatever, high powered weapon with all the toys on it. Guess what? I'm going to walk up behind you and take it.
I've seen that happen too
I'm going
in
to take
Miami.
it.
They
So
they take it right off you.
I'm going to take it. So
Mm.
these people walking around here, again, never been punched in their mouth. They have no idea what real conflict looks like. They're walking around with a $3,500 weapon thinking they're
Yeah.
Mr. Clint Eastwood.
Oh
And
no.
they ain't never dealt with the real deal. I'm gonna walk up and take it. That's why I
I've seen
don't
that.
like. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I don't like it. But no, I think there's definitely a discussion to be had about mental health. Obviously, we need to talk about that. We're putting all this money into lobbying against weapons or for weapons. If we could just take a fraction of that money and put it into more mental health, maybe we'll be able to help some folks. We got a lot of people in this country confused about everything that didn't used to be the case, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That is definitely an argument. But the thing is, this is very complex and layered. And people want to focus on. Well, I'm gonna focus on mental health. Why are we gonna focus on guns? We're gonna focus on not having guns. We're gonna focus. It's all inclusive. We'll never get there. And especially when you have, you got the president of the United States making these type claims that are just outright false. because they want talking points and they want to rile up their base because this is an election cycle. That's absolutely wrong. Either we're going to handle this like adults or we're going to handle it like children. And more people are like, la, 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 your facts are burning my ears. I don't want to hear it. If you're doing that, then my thing is, we'll leave it the way it is. I'm not willing to meet you halfway if you're not willing to meet me halfway. And
so let me ask you this, Theo.
So go ahead.
If there's, and I agree with what you're saying, the majority of people in our country are saying, wait a minute, both Republican and Democrat, I'm talking about the people, are saying, wait, there might be something we can do. I mean, we went from tragedies like Sandy Hook and some of these other mass
go back to Columbine.
episodes.
Go back to the big one.
Yeah, we had all these big things, children, Parkland, all of these places. So people have paid attention both sides of the aisle. Do you think we'll have any, what should I say, people on the Republican side that will actually vote in terms of our lawmakers to do anything about it? Or is it so much that they align with the NRA and pro-gun rights that they will never, ever touch anything, even if it's seemingly common sense?
At the state level, yes. Look at Florida. Law enforcement can come take your guns. What do all the Republicans say? Biden's going to take your guns. Obama's going to take your guns. Enter the name of Democrat here is going to take your guns. In Florida, they really do come take your guns.
Yeah.
If you warrant that, and like you said, well, you get them back most of the time, but some of them don't get them back.
Yeah.
That's what's going on in Florida. Think about that for a moment.
Right.
Florida. So yes, at the state level, yes, you can do this. But you look at a state like California, the polar opposite of Florida and Texas, in New York, the polar opposites. They're not even willing to come to the table when it comes to concealed carry and stuff like that. They only want certain people that they want to have concealed carry. In LA County, you can't get a concealed carry license because the sheriff won't issue it. But other counties in Northern California, you can get one because the sheriff will issue it. This needs to be handled at the state level before we can talk about what's going on at the federal level.
Okay, good points. To answer or to respond to Andrew, I see you. Thank you, Miss AKA Lady said the quickness of the internet has destroyed people's thought processes and reasoning. Many will agree with you, sis. Chris adds, DL mentioned training. I can't agree enough about this. Too much of a liberal approach is being taken towards gun ownership. Liberal, not the big L as in Democrat, but just a liberal open approach towards gun ownership and not having enough emphasis on training and education. And I think the responsibility of it. You have some states you can own a gun, but you can't vote and other things. And it's a big responsibility. And you should know the laws. Like you really should be the ones that know the laws if you are taking this responsibility seriously. Cujo adds, it's all about controlling our emotional behavior, repairing ourselves from the hurt of life. Yes, we all have it. From many people are living in so much anger because of the situation in their life. We have to learn to control our mental mind and soul and learn to overcome the pain in life the best way we can. Listen, that's why I try to show people grace, even though I'll still call out when I think somebody's doing something wrong. But I'm like, you know what? This person can be having a horrible day, horrible life, a horrible moment in time where they are just overwhelmed by things. The amount of people that I'll randomly talk to and they just start crying. And I'm just like, God, think about how heavy that has to be for you to cry to like a stranger that is just, maybe at a coffee shop or just ask you if you're okay and things like this. There's a lot of heaviness in people's hearts right about now. I agree with you, Kojo. So that mental health part in terms of society as a whole is compounding the weapons issue that we're seeing. And I do think, I don't want to use one as a scapegoat, as DL says, it's multi-layered, but that is a major layer. I do agree with why we see a lot more of these scenarios where people are going off the deep end and something else is going on inside them, pain inside them. Even that young transgender person the week before, because, we just had so many back to back in not even a month, was going through, it looks like, again, with their condition of what they were going through mentally with their parents and their, everything going on in their life. You pull up to a Christian, like, was it church school?
Yeah.
And go off and
hunting
shoot
babies.
9-year-olds?
Hunting babies. That person is crazy. There's no other way to look at that. You're crazy to even come up with that scheme. I am going to come up with a mission where I am hunting babies.
It's so crazy.
So crazy. So people are like, what do? We want to take these weapons away. You can't, people. Yeah. It's impossible. I'm serious. You can't do it.
No, but they say actually every time there's a mass shooting, especially some of the assault weapons, their sales go up.
Yes.
Like after every mass shooting, like
Yes.
more people buy them. And I heard there's a story, I forget on what program on NPR, about how we went from the assault weapons ban and how manufacturers were not really interested in making those type of weapons of war, but how they become popularized, how they become marketed now. You know, you be a real man, you own yours, you get yours, like kind of putting them in video games on purpose to market them to certain people, certain age groups. It has gotten out of control. So
And they
I don't
don't even know how
know.
to use them. I mean, that's
No.
another thing. You want the weapons, you want the gear, you want to look like a soldier, but you refuse to enlist. That's another
Yeah.
thing too. I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? Make everybody join. If everybody went in the military, and y'all know I always preach this. Everybody should have to join the military. It should be forced for 2
Compulsory.
years, for at
Yeah.
least for 2 years. And
Public
guess what?
service in some capacity in an organized
They
way.
have it in other countries.
Yeah,
Hey, Ace Butterfly
military.
Mountain.
I hear what you're saying about the public service, but I'm like, no, you need to join the United States. You should be forced into the United States military. Could you imagine if you were sitting on a boat off the coast of Sudan right now, watching the smoke in the city, literally? And then when you see how the rest
You
of
have
the
a
world works,
different perspective, 100%.
you
But at the
gonna come.
same token, are people built to handle that mentally? How many people could really recoup or come back to their senses? I agree with the discipline, but the issue that I see is impulse control. People are not taught how to cope. And this is from when you have an 8-year-old or a minor. You teach them, no, you do not do this. Why? Because that's not the right time. That's when you're a youth. And Suzette, you know this, gun don't have sense. It's the man that they're behind them. You know what I mean, Suzette?
Yes, I hear you.
But
I
here's
say
the thing.
Yeah.
I agree with you, brother. I agree with you 100%. But no one's parenting anymore, too. Again, this is multi-layered, and that's a huge layer right there. Why we got kids trying to fight grown-ups in school? Why? Because they know nothing's going to happen to them. When I was in school, y'all know I'm old. When I was in school, if you tried to put your hands on a teacher, a female teacher, Mr. Jenkins coming in there, he's gonna put his hands on you.
It was a wrap.
That's how we did it.
It was a wrap. Draped up, done up, dealt with. We're talking about the American tragedy. We're going to take final comments in the chat. I see you. Brown Gal, Peace Lounge. How are you? Ace B, long time. Good to see you, sis. Happy you're here. Everybody watching Team Replay, hit the like button. Yes, I Miss Globe Girl. Hey, all my faves are in the building. Good to have you all. I know we're wrapping up, but definitely leave your comments after. Go back and watch Team Replay. Glad to have my panelists here, DL Saint, Andrew, the bellicose banter walker, and there's a lot of layers to this. I don't know if we're going to get to the bottom of it this moment, but just wanted to spend some time really to acknowledge what is happening. And if there's something that we can be doing, signing petitions, going to meetings, letting our politicians know, sending emails, calling their office. I don't know what it can be in terms of common sense legislation, but it seems like, again, people on both sides, when it comes to Democrats and Republicans, are okay with not taking it away, but making sense in terms of what we're allowing people to do so we don't harm the general public when you're just going about your day to these public spaces. So yeah, there is a lot of mental health. There is family values and parenting that comes into it, but it's still going to end up in the hand of somebody, and we have to make sure they're prepared for the responsibility and stable enough to actually exercise good judgment when it comes to when and where they use it. Good afternoon to my folks watching. Kojo adds, my opinion, I think police and law enforcement should carry guns only if the other you do believe this? Only is my opinion. Police and law enforcement should be the only people that carry guns. That's not the American way, my love. Only if, on the other hand, if citizens carry guns, they should have it through intense. Okay, get your point. Mental training. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Should not get a gun so easy. Bless up. All right, I see your point. Now you're saying, because that's not the American way. We believe in being able to fight against the government. If the government becomes tyrannical and all of a sudden wants to take over, we have the right to bear arms, and we take that thing very seriously.
Yeah,
right?
and not just our government. Let's say Canada got froggy and wanted to do something to America. The Canadians know there are more guns in this country than people. The Canadians know it'd be impossible to hold this country. You know what I mean? Like, no one wants to mess with that. That's a deterrent.
We got some real ones.
Yeah, that's a deterrent. Like Americans, but to your point, with mental health and stuff like that, when the one thing that comes out after the fact on all these horrific events are the people who say, I knew something was wrong. I thought maybe something might happen. The one in Kentucky, the mother was
She
calling
called, yes.
as
That
he
was
was on his way. The
Yeah,
mother.
Suzette, quick question. Why is it when the parents call about their own children, they don't respond quick? I've never understood that. A lot of these shooters, the parents were turning into kids.
Yes.
But in that case,
What people
he was
don't seem
already
to
acting.
understand, and I see your comment. Thank you, HB. Says the technology I think has been really delayed social development. Good point. Andrew was leading to this as well. For a child person who is unstable, there needs to be additional support. Great observation. Thank you. But yeah, I agree. The non-emergency number thing, I don't know. It's not working out so well because even
She
with
called 911 though.
she called, okay, the friend that same shooter for the church school, she had contacted a basketball player that she had played with, African American young lady, that she was like, oh, I love you, you're the most beautiful person I've known, and I'm gonna do something crazy. And she was like, no. And she tried to call the non-emergency number in time, but she was already in school. And then I don't understand. There is always a delay. I tell people, what you're telling the 911 person is not always what the cop who is being dispatched gets. It's like a break in communication. The 911 person is getting a full picture. The people who show up at your door is not getting a full picture. They're
And
making an underground assessment, which is not good.
And Suzette is never a full picture, even from 911. So you have multiple 911 operators getting bits of information. They don't coordinate that with anyone because they can't. It's real time. So you're talking to mom who's saying, I think my son might do something. He might hurt some people or himself. I think we need some help. But at the same time, he was already doing it. So the 911, if you go back and listen to the call, the 911 operator was telling mom, no, he's already doing it. What's his name?
Yeah.
And they're giving that information out to law enforcement who's already on the scene. So, but it goes, again, mental health. How do we handle that? I really believe it starts in the home. We're having these children. I ain't gonna lie to you. I think we're to a point where we need to regulate who's having babies. Let's see we need to give you a certificate to have some babies, because no one's raising their children anymore. And then when the society tries to raise your child or discipline your child, who pushes back first? The parents. You can't even, I remember, and I said this on my platform a couple of days ago. I remember when I was in elementary school, I had just got transferred into a new school, mid-school year. And I'm walking around, I didn't know the rules. Mr. Morgan, I'll never forget his name, great man. If you weren't working on the proper side of the hallway, or if you had your street shoes on the gym floor, you got a SWAT. He walked around with a powder in his back pocket. Grab your own pop right there, and send a note home. So I got to go home with a note saying I got in trouble, and now my mom and dad dealing with me. That was
normal.
Yes.
Standard. Yeah.
And we were talking about this. I'll stop after this. We were talking about this whole phenomenon with kids doing what they're doing in these schools, right? People act like we didn't have weapons back in the 70s and 80s. We did.
Yeah.
We did. Mid 80s is when Iran-Contra and all that, mid to late 80s, Iran-Contra. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. The streets got flooded with military grade equipment. We had weapons. We didn't do anything at school. Why? Because I was afraid I'd get in trouble. My parents find out, bro, I'm going to be on punishment forever. Something that small, because it's ingrained in you as a little kid. There is no people, these little kids don't fear no grown up. They think they know everything. Why?
Yes.
The one in was it the South Carolina? I think the teacher had to fight a kid, and the teacher and the kid got in trouble, and the kid started because the teacher took the phone away. You violated rules. I'm gonna take your phone away. This little girl came up cursing at her, swinging at her, or whatever. Started this fight and was fighting with a grown woman. Come on now.
It's crazy. Yeah, there's a definite gap, and we're gonna wrap up, guys. But there's a lot you said there that I think are contributing factors for a lot of, I guess, a general breakdown in terms of family structure, discipline, as Andrew said, understanding delayed gratification, understanding people are not always going to get their way. People can talk to you and you can disagree with people, but not be mad and forever, upset or hold a grudge or even go off. And I think even how the pandemic has affected us, there's so many contributing factors. As you guys have pointed out, I just want to thank the sponsor for today's show on the Cash App. Thank you, Mr. Wonderful 34. Thank you. I appreciate you showing love and supporting the content. We're going to get final comments. I'm going to read a few more of your chat, and I got to go, y'all. I'm going to an event in a little bit, but this is a great conversation to have. It's good to hear all sides because sometimes we're in our echo chambers, but it's good to hear also Democrats, Republicans also comfortable with now saying common sense reform ain't never hurt nobody. And again, it's not about taking everybody's guns away, but we got to figure this out. Thank you. Kojo says, great show. I appreciate you. I'm grateful that you were here. Miss AKA Lady adds, you can gentle parent your kids into menaces. Woo. Not saying you can't lead with love, but don't put your kid in a position to misunderstand how the world works for real. Y'all, somebody's gonna stop them in their tracks and let them know. It can be law enforcement, it can be, a job, their first job, wherever. The reality of how the world really is, and that you're not the center of it, and no one really cares. Your excuse, your crying, your whatever, it's not the way it goes. You have to be resilient. This is another thing we need to be really teaching our kids. Sometimes family members are scared to call law enforcement out of fear their loved ones will be killed by the popo. This is true. Sometimes you'll see people report, others will not. Calling that emergency number, especially in Miami, so many different times have ended up in tragedy where the person that you're trying to get help for ends up becoming the victim of a police shooting. I hear you. This is true, Miss Gold Girl. You know it. Ace Butterfly adds, it's becoming very dangerous for teachers. These incidences will lead to the best talent leaving the profession. Very true. Gotta go. Yes, live recording tonight. All right, y'all. Final comments. Taking guns away is a joke when you can't get guns off the black market. Yeah, someone always going to have them. I agree with that. So it doesn't make sense only the bad guys sitting out here getting them illegally and all the legal stuff. I agree with you on that point. Final comments. Takeaways of these stories of young people, accidental, mistakes leading to tragedy. Final thoughts from you, Andrew. We'll start with you first.
I just want to say, we all have to take a step back, learn to take a hit or two, like DL says. And I think young men have to learn to take a hit, get up, recuperate, and assess situations. We all need to take a pause in our lives, take a deep breath, and then assess our next moves. If we start thinking that way, life and everything that you do becomes better, at least at a starting point. Take a deep breath, wait a few seconds, and then react accordingly. It benefits you all the way around.
That's great advice, men, women, children, everybody. Stop and think before you react. Before I send an email, before I ready to send a text, if I'm upset, if I'm in any kind of emotional state, I pause. Let me go get a drink of water. Let me go take a walk. Let me go check my mail. Let me go do whatever. Then
especially
I'm gonna come
that
back
text message, right, DL? It mess you up all the time with the ladies, right?
For real.
You
Can't
don't
bring
need
it
to
back
be
once you
right
hit
in the
sin.
moment.
Oh, once you hit sin,
Firebird, you know it. So it's like, okay, make sure you saying what you really want to say. If you, especially in a professional, but in all circumstances, people are super sensitive now. You also have to realize your own self-awareness. You also have triggers. So you have to make sure you're not operating in emotion and losing yourself in that moment. And then it has a long-term outcome or effect. I appreciate you, Andrew. Always a pleasure. See you real soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. DL, final comments from you, sir.
I don't know. I really think this starts from the home. I really do. It's not to say that is the end all to be all. That's the one fix. No, there are plenty of people who come from great homes to go out and do horrific things. I'm not saying that. But I truly believe that a lot of these issues would be stemmed early in life if these children are disciplined early. If these children understand that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and if they are held to account for their decisions. I think a lot of that would get us going, I think, in the right direction. As far as, like you said, there's no way you can get rid of all the weapons. And if they had their way, it's like you said, Suzette, if they had their way, that more people would become criminals if the law of the land was you can't have it. Because trust me, I know the bad guys armed. I'm gonna be armed too. So it's just the bottom line.
Yeah,
Either
we have
you
to
work
be.
with me, right?
That's
You
what I
work
say.
with me or you work against me. I'm either gonna be legal or criminal, but it just, and I know a lot of people like that. And I'll say this. I told people this a long time ago. I didn't have my first legal weapon until I was 50 years old, but I've always been armed. Why don't y'all think on that for a minute?
That's some food for thought. Dia, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, my friend. All the best to you. We'll talk soon. Sorry. Go ahead. Sending us out always on a high note. Thank you, Dio. Good to see you, brother. Hope you continue to do great work. I saw some of y'all. If y'all like a little controversy, go to Dio's channel. He gonna keep it red pill for you. So that he I would say keep it spicy. It's been a lot of spice going along in these YouTube streets. We'll leave it there. Appreciate you.
I'm one step closer to getting that female panel. I'm working on the show to get the perspective of women. I'm one step closer, Suzette. When I get some commitments, you know I'm coming for you, girl. I gotta have you.
Oh, okay. You wait. Real quick. Ace Butterfly says, "What, Dio? How old is Dio?" He said he didn't get a weapon until 50. Repeat what you just said.
I did not get my first legal weapon until I was 50. But I've always been armed.
Don't tell it all. Bye, Dio. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming through. All right. Talk to you soon. Ebony says a lot of these families have mental issues that are not being addressed. It affects them greatly in school as well as others around them. Yeah, I saw your previous comment as well. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments and you're watching Team Replay about any of the shows that we've talked about, please let me know. Leave a comment, hit the like button, and share. These are tragedies that we don't want to see repeated, whether it's the Ralph Yarl case, whether it is Miss Kaylin Gillis, if it's Miss Peyton Washington, or the little cutie patootie, Miss Kinsley. We got to talk about it, y'all, because if we don't take a stand and become advocates for ourselves, for our community, it's going to keep happening. So we have to make sure these folks are held accountable, right? Justice is served in these cases so that we have accountability, right? So people will stop behaving so rashly. Take a moment, guys. Take your time. Peace to everybody. Thank you so much, DL, for coming through. Thank you, Andrew, for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate you, Doug. And I appreciate everybody who's stopped by to let me know how you really feel. All right. I'll see you guys next broadcast. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be good to one another. Love y'all. And thanks for your support. Appreciate you. Hit the like button. Bye now.